I'm going to start with the geometry node. Next, I'm going to drop down a box. So I'm going to scale this box into the shape of a wall, and then we're going to fracture the wall for first I want to place this box on the ground plane. So right now, if I make the background darker and then put it in a wireframe, you'll see that this box, it's sitting smack in the middle of the grid. So I'm going to move it up. I'm going to call this ground. Move it up by 0.5 because the box is 1 by 1 by 1. Initially, the box was in the middle of the grid, the origin. So midpoint of the height, width, and depth of the cube is 0.5. Half of the cube was above the ground plane and half of the cube was below the ground plane. By moving it up 0.5 units, we moved the entire cube. So now it's sitting on the ground plane. Next, I want this to be in the shape of the wall. So I'm going to use the same dimensions I used before, which is 4 by 2 by 0.35. So that will give me a general shape of a wall. However, this wall is a little smaller than I would prefer. For Houdini.net simulations, they really like to be above 1 meter. I mean, anything below 1 meter, it's going to take more parameter tweaking in the .net to get your desired effect. All the default parameter settings in the .net is based in meters, and this wall isn't that small, but I would prefer it to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to scale this up a little bit, maybe 5 times. Okay, so this is like almost 20 meters by, I think 20 by 10 by, I'm not sure how tall it is. Okay, so we have a general shape of our wall. Next, we're going to start fracturing this. So I want fractured pieces in the interior as well. So we're going to put down an ISO offset and turn this into a volume. So this becomes a volume. As you can see right here, this is the volume. Scatter points on the volume so we can have points in the interior. Next, I'm going to drop down a Voronoi fracture. Hook the geometry, which is this, into the first plug input, in the first input of the Voronoi fracture. And then we're going to hook up the points, our scattered points, into the second input of the Voronoi fracture over here. And then we get a fractured wall, which we can verify with an exploded view. Now, since this is only for debugging purposes, I'm going to make this a black color node. So this gives us an idea of how our wall is fractured. Next, I'm going to put a null for this. So there's 2 outputs that comes out of the Voronoi fracture. The first output is the geometry, our fractured geometry. So I'm going to put a out geometry. So it's easier to find later on by prefixing the name with an out. It'll make it a little more organized and easier to find later on. So I'm going to call this out constraint, which is the second output of the Voronoi fracture. And if I put the render flag on this, you're going to see wireframes. Now these wireframes represent the constraints, which we're going to turn these constraints into glue constraints. So if we take a look at the geometry spreadsheet, in the primitives, there's a rest length that is automatically created per primitive, which is per line right now. Now, in order to complete the glue constraint, we need to name each primitive. We need to name our constraint. So I'm going to put down attribute create, this down here. Now this is going to be constraint underscore name. So this is what the .net will be looking for when we set up our constraint network. It has to be exactly this name, and it will be of class because the constraints are created on the primitive. So the class is primitive, and then the type will be a string because we're going to name it. I'm going to call it glue. So we have a really basic setup of a fractured wall with glue constraints all set up. Next, let's go back up. I'm going to call this wall, and I'm going to drop down another geometry node. Now this will be our sim. Now I'm not going to render the sim. Again, I'm going to be putting down a .import node inside our wall node, and that will extract all the data from the simulation. So we don't need the render flag on this simulation node. Now let's drop down our .net. Now, if you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I like to bring all the geometry and all the data into this context first. I feel like this is more organized. However, this is optional. You don't have to do it like that. So I'm going to bring in, now this is our sim. Now I don't need that. I need the wall, and I want to bring in the geometry. Now transform into this object, and I'm going to put down a null. Label this wall geo, I'm going to call it. Next, I'm going to take both of these and I'm going to copy it. Now, this one I'm going to be bringing in the constraints. So I'm going to update this name as well, so it's wall constraint. So let's go into the .net. Now, we'll need an RBD because we're doing a destruction scene. Now we have quite a few. I have RBD fractured object, which is actually the one we want. But if you look carefully, there's also an RBD packed object, which is more memory efficient. It's more optimized to use this. But if you remember correctly, let's go back up to the wall. I didn't pack this. So let's pack it. By packing it, you would just put down an assemble node down here. It has two options. The assemble node has two options. There's a create name attribute, and there's a create packed geometry. Well, that's what we want. We want to create a packed geometry. So let's check this. But before we finish this off, we have a create name attribute here. If we look carefully into the Voronoi fracture node, let's click this. Let's put the render flag here. Now, let's go to the geometry spreadsheet and look at the primitives. There's already a name. So this is already named. Now I don't need to name it again in the assemble node. So let's go here to assemble node, put the render flag here, uncheck this because we don't need to do it anymore. Geometry node here. Okay, put the render flag back to the out geometry. Let's go back up, back to the sim node .net. So now we have packed geometry. So now we can use the RBD packed object. Now we need a solver. Now which solver do we use? I'm going to be using the rigid body solver. Next, let me hook this up. Now, we don't see anything in the 3D viewport. That's because we haven't linked the RBD packed object yet. So in the SOP, on the SOP path, it's blank. Now let's bring it in. Under the sim context here, I already brought in all the geometry. So this is nice and handy. Everything's available under the sim context. I don't have to go search for it anywhere else. That's the benefit of bringing in, extracting all the geometry into the sim geometry node. That's over here. That's this over here to this level. That's the convenience of that. But you don't have to do that. That's totally optional. So I'm going to bring that in. And right when you fill this field properly, you'll see that the 3D viewport updates. Okay, let's just try and play. Let's just play the simulation to see what happens. Nothing's happening. Well, that's correct because we don't have. There's no forces acting on this simulation. We didn't add a gravity. We don't have anything. So let's add the gravity. Okay, now let's play the animation again. Okay, so it's falling. So it's working, but it's not doing anything. It's still not doing anything. It's not colliding with anything. So let's add a ground plane. Now we add a merge. Merge this down here. Let's grab a ground plane here. Let's touch the ground plane here. Now this crisscross is not good. You want to merge the ground plane from left to right so there won't be a crisscross. Let's click the merge. Now move the ground plane up so we don't have the crisscross anymore. Now let's play it again. Play the animation simulation again. Okay, so our fractured wall is fracturing and it's colliding with the ground plane. So good. We have a working simulation. Okay, next we're gonna set up the glue constraint. Gonna take this and pull it down. Now we need to add a glue constraint network, or constraint network, sorry. So that's this. Add this in here. So we need to plug in the constraint to create. Now, That's the glue constraint relationship. That's what we're going to use. Let's hook this up to the second input of the glue constraint network. Now, the glue constraint network is asking for a geometry source SOP. It's asking for a SOP path here. Now that's the wireframe that we had before that we created. That's this one. That's this wireframe. So let's go back to the Dopnet. Glue constraint network. For this path, let's import that. The sim out wall constraints. Okay, and then glue constraint relationship. For the data name, now that's that glue name that we gave it. So let's put glue here. And if you want to check if you want to verify if you have the glue constraint set up properly, just put the 3D viewport into wireframe mode. Okay, and then you'll start to see these red wires. That's representing the glue constraint. If you did not have this, I'll change the glue name to glue doesn't exist, and the red wire disappears. So that's a simple way to verify if the glue constraint is set up properly in the Dopnet. You can change the color of the wires of the wireframe, the glue constraint wireframe. You can change it to green, blue, pink, but I'm just going to keep it at red because that's easier to see. Next, we're just going to play the simulation, see what happens. Okay, so this is quite useless because the glue constraint breaks almost immediately because the gravity is too strong. The glue isn't strong enough to hold to hold the entire wall together. We want the wall to be glued strong enough so it can withstand the force of the gravity before we start adding the force field, because once we start adding more forces, it will be a lot harder to debug things because we'll have a lot more factors affecting the simulation. So let's turn up the glue strength to an amount that can withstand the gravity so it can stand on its own. So let's take this 10,000 strength and just multiply it by a factor of 10. So we're going to have 100,000. So let's play the simulation again. So this is a lot better, but you'll see on the ground over here, it starts to break. Let me turn off the wireframe. So you're starting to see it chip right here. And over here as well. So it's starting to chip. So that's not very nice because you don't want your wall to start fracturing before the force field starts acting upon it. So let's reset the simulation and let's turn up the glue constraint just a little bit more. I don't think we need a factor of 10, but instead maybe we need 200,000. Okay, let's put it back into wireframe, play the simulation. Okay, it's still breaking up. I can see some of these red wireframes, they're disappearing. But let's take a better look. Let's turn off wireframe and let's see if it's actually affecting the appearance. Oh, so on the back, it's starting to chip on the back. Okay, so let's put it back to wireframe and turn up the glue constraint again. I'm gonna try 300,000 because I think we're getting close. Now let's play the simulation. Okay, it seems okay so far, but let's turn off wireframe. Let's take a look. Yeah, I think it's holding together. Now I want the minimum amount of glue. So I'm gonna try doing a halfway point. The last glue strength I tried was 200,000. This is 300,000 for it to be completely withstanding. So I'm gonna go in between and see if I can lower the glue strength, because if the glue is too strong, you're going to have a hard time adding the force field. If the glue strength is set too high, you'll find it difficult to break the wall for your destruction scene. So try to stick with the minimum amount of glue strength needed to maintain the wall standing up against the gravity force. This way you start the simulation in a good position before we start adding the force field and before things get complicated. So you want the glue strength to be as small as possible. So let's try 250,000 in order to get a midway point and replay the simulation. I think it's holding together quite well. Let's turn off wireframe and take a look. Oh, it's chipping right here. So no, that's not going to work. So let's up this a bit more. And I'm going to do another midway point. So 250,000 and 300,000, the midway point of them both would be 280,000. Let's try it again. Okay, I'm going to turn off wireframe, take a turn around. Okay, I think that's the magic number. I think 280,000 glue strength is the magic number. I realized that most of my tutorials have a lot of repeated scene setups that are all very similar, so I decided to make this video a template to be used for all future videos on destruction simulations. Then I won't have to keep recording the same thing over and over again. For future videos on destruction in Houdini that will use this template scene containing the wall geometry and the sim.net setup, I will post a link back to this video for reference in all future and relevant videos. I'm hoping this will speed up my production time and allow me to produce more videos and cover more topics in the future. Thank you for watching and sticking to the end.